Do you remember that old TV cartoon in which the main character, I think it was a dog, had to make a decision about which action to take? And there were two beings hovering over his shoulders. The one on his right was a little angel dressed in white with a halo and flapping wings. Over the left was a devil in a red suit with a pitchfork and pointy tail. Listen to me. This is the way of good, says the angel. No, listen to me. It's so much easier my way, says the devil, or words to that effect. The dog is usually depicted with his head going back and forth between the two, trying to decide which path to take, the path of good or the path of evil. In our first reading, Jeremiah is experiencing something like this. He has already decided to walk on the side of the angels, having been enticed by God. But he was not enjoying the consequences. You can almost hear the little devil egging him on, saying, "Why should you have to put up with all this derision? Just stop preaching and your life will be so much easier." And the little devil wins out. But Jeremiah's better self knows the truth. I say to myself, I will not mention him. I will speak in his name no more. But then it becomes like fire burning in my heart, imprisoned in my bones. I grow weary holding it in. I cannot endure it. He could not ignore God's plan for him, no matter how hard he tried. God is not pushy, but he is persistent and oh so patient. In this busy world with so many distractions, demands, and worries, especially now, how do we attune ourselves to be able to even hear God's voice? In the second reading, Paul gives us a clue as to how we can at least make ourselves receptive. Do not conform yourselves to this age, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and pleasing and perfect. This reminds me of a description I read of modern day prophets like Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, Dorothy Day, and Gandhi. They were described as living their lives on the edge of the inside. They were just enough on the inside of the dominant culture or social system to know it with all its strengths and faults, but not at the center where they would be too invested with much to lose. They hadn't conformed themselves to the world, but rather had been transformed so that they in turn could help transform others and in many cases speak truth to worldly powers. Even if we are attuned and eager to learn God's plan for us, how do we recognize it? Richard Rohr, the Franciscan priest who founded the Center for Action and Contemplation in Albuquerque, New Mexico, has said on numerous occasions that God comes to you disguised as your life. When you think about it, where else would he come to us? So it was a bit of a shock to me the other day when, in the midst of my life, folding laundry, I realized that in preparing this reflection, I definitely was not practicing what I was supposed to be preaching, so to speak. I had set out a schedule in my mind to be finished writing this by a certain day so that I would have lots of time to revise and practice. I was getting a bit anxious because things weren't coming together the way I wanted. I realized that I was being a bit like Peter in the Gospel when he argues with Jesus about Jesus' death and resurrection. He says, "God forbid, Lord, no such thing shall ever happen to you." Like Peter, I was thinking like a human, expecting the ideas to conform to my schedule, not listening for what God might want me to say, and on his schedule, not mine. It took the mundane activity of everyday life to help me realize what I was doing and to relax and just let it be. God could also be coming to you in that voice in your head that won't go away. You might think of this inner voice as the Holy Spirit, your conscience, maybe even your guardian angel. It's probably not telling you anything you didn't already know, but might be trying to ignore, like Jeremiah did. You should offer to help that person over there who looks lost, but you're in a bad mood and you don't feel like it, so you don't do it. You have a pile of loonies and toonies in your pocket. Why not give them to that man over there asking for spare change? But perhaps we tell ourselves that surely God doesn't expect me to help every person asking me for money, does he? And so we keep our excess treasure and our eyes averted. It's easy to justify to ourselves the decisions we make in order to make ourselves feel better or stop feeling guilty. But by doing so, might we have deprived ourselves of what could have been the other part of God's suggestion? If you help this person out, your mood will probably improve, and you might even make a new friend. I'm not asking you to help every panhandler today, just this one, who I know really needs it. As Jesus points out to Peter in Matthew's Gospel, you are thinking not as God does, but as human beings do. When you put all the readings together, we can see that perhaps our lives are not really all about us. The readings challenge us to set aside our willfulness and our desires, or the ones that the world tries very hard to convince us to focus on. Instead, they remind us that our lives are about finding and carrying out what we're really here for. And although Jesus said, whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it, what you might find is your true life, the one that is unique to you in God's divine plan.